We are now going live to Janet Phelan, live in Mexico. And voila, there. I'm going to have to readjust my picture of you, but there you are. I can't hear you, but can you talk? There we go.
I came a little cockeyed here, but...
yeah, I'm going to readjust my capture because I do have... I have to guess. It's a long story. People are bored. But when I do this show, I have to manually capture this stuff and set it up because I never know exactly where your picture will be. But there you go. Janet Phelan live from Mexico. And how are you doing?
I'm doing all right, all things considered. I like that caveat there. It leaves a lot of wiggle room. I do want to announce right off the bat that a new book has been published on the problems in adult guardianship. And as the listening audience may know, this is a subject matter that has very much captured my attention. So the book is entitled Guardianship: How Judges and Lawyers Steal Your Money. I think that's makes the content and the perspective fairly clear. The book was put together by a man named Michael Larson, and it includes a lot of articles by a number of different people on the kinds of problems going on in guardianships, the kinds of cases, and so forth. So you can look for it on Amazon.com. I'm actually very heartened that this issue is getting more and more and more attention. I think it was about a week ago, Al Jazeera ran a program on the evils of guardianship or the problems in guardianship. And it does appear that the Government Accountability Office, which I will refrain from making any sort of snide comments about that name. I would like to call it the GNO, the Government Non-Accountability Office. Nevertheless, they are doing another study on guardianship. And so people who have had experiences with friends and family in guardianship who would like to relate their experiences to the GAO, now is the time to do it. So that is the initial sort of announcement that I want to make before we get into.
All right, I do have it up on the webpage on the screen here, so people can see this. $12.04 for the paperback, $7.99 a Kindle, and M. Larson, right? That's the one.
Yes, it is.
Okay, there we go.
And thank you, Mr. Larson, for putting this together too. If you're listening, thank you, because the more coverage we get on this issue, the better it is. So I'd like to talk a little bit tonight about the upcoming election, not from a perspective so much of advancing one candidate over another, but more in terms of the systemic problems we are now having with elections. And I did a little bit of research on the venues, the locations during the past few elections where it appears that election fraud was rampant. And I found something very interesting and very disturbing. So basically, the article, which is on New Eastern Outlook, is entitled "The 2016 U.S. Presidential Election Produced for Your Viewing Satisfaction." And the thesis here in the article is that there are certain venues, and in the article we discussed Ohio, Florida, and New Mexico. I believe there may be a couple other states, but I focused on these three, where election, the ability to, shall we say, miscount the votes has become established. It has become endemic in the systems there. And this is what I found that was so compelling and so disturbing. Now, in the 2000 election, presidential election, there was a lot of concern as to whether George Bush actually won the election. There was a lot of focus on Florida, where interestingly enough, his brother, Jeb Bush, was governor. And Florida appeared to be the pivotal state that basically turned the election for George Bush. Now, it turned the election for George Bush in some very concerning ways. I'm going to read a little bit here. Factors resulting in Bush's victory over Gore included Florida Governor Jeb Bush ordering state troopers to engage in such confrontational tactics as car searches at polling places, which resulted in keeping individuals from voting. Other tactics included some precincts demanding two forms of identification. This is illegal. Florida law only mandates one, but people who show up to the polls, particularly it appeared African Americans who tend to vote Democrat, were demanded of two forms of identification, which kept them from voting, and other individuals were turned away from polling places, having falsely been called convicted felons, and also the polls closed early in Democratic precincts, which kept Democrats from voting. There's also, of course, the infamous hanging Chad. It went on, and ballots. It went on and on and on in Florida. So that was in the year 2000. Now, by 2004, a lot of U.S. citizens had really had their fill of George Bush, and he was then running against John Kerry, and we found that, again, that Florida went for Bush. Now, this is where it gets interesting. We're going to segue now to the 2012 election, where the incumbent, Barack Obama, who is now turned a bit sour in a lot of people's perceptions of his ability to fulfill his campaign promises and so forth. He's running for re-election. Florida went for Barack Obama. Now, Florida is where there are so many problems in counting the vote that it has become actually legendary. We found that other states which had helped secure the re-election of George Bush in 2004 turned around and secured the re-election for Democrat Barack Obama in 2012. And these are states where allegations of election fraud have become extremely concerning. One of these is Ohio. So in 2004, when Bush was running for re-election, I'm going to read from here, Ohio was delivered to Bush through a number of dedicated methods, including African American voter suppression, the utilization of voting machines pre-programmed to register Democratic votes as Republican ones, the removal of voting machines in African American neighborhoods, and destruction of new voter registration forms. Now, all of these methods secured Ohio, which was pivotal for Bush to win in 2004 in order to be reelected. And lo and behold, they did the same thing for Barack Obama in 2012. Another state which we found engaging in similar activities went for Bush in 2004, then switched over to blue to make sure that Barack Obama got in 2012, and that would be New Mexico. And there, I believe there were a couple of others as well. So it looks to me as if Joe Stalin's old famous statement that, it doesn't matter who votes, it matters who counts the vote, that appears to have been institutionalized now in America in a number of venues which are considered to be very important to win if the country is going to go in one direction or the other.
There is a saying in Chicago that goes back to Mayor Daley, the father. The son is now retired, and Rahm Emanuel
Right.
has pushed his way in, but the old man, as they call him, used to have his. There was a saying in those days, since he ran this like a tight machine. Vote early and often was the saying. So, in those days, they had a
But look,
machine that you literally clicked the little buttons, and there were legend stories where when it closed, they would just go back and start clicking the little button, to add some more votes in, and no one could do anything because the machine, it was just little switches. You'd click the switches of what you want, and when you were done, it would be like cha-chink, and there's the vote. So they would just go in and, add a little thing. Of course, at those days, there wasn't, even to now, there's no Republican Party in Chicago. They have it now where they don't even have a primary. It's just an election because they have some guy who you'd never heard of as a Republican, and he arrested the Democrats.
Mm-hmm. One of the interesting things when I was researching this story is that there were some venues where I believe there was like 600 voters registered in that particular county or that particular polling place or whatever, and like 4,000 of them voted for Bush. But there's only 600 registered voters. It's the same sort of mechanism. And this issue with the pre-programmed electronic voting machines is very disturbing.
I saw a video about that where you had some college guys, programmer guys, were able to program it so that it would just slightly win to who you wanted to. So it wasn't like it was 100-1, but it was just enough to win so that people go, "Oh, that was close," type of a thing. And it would register every so often. It would count the votes, and if it got too high from the programming, then it would add some just to keep it the way they wanted it to. And those same guys, by the way, I wish I could find this. Now, I'm saying this, and I wish I had the little report, a documentary. They were not able to hack into a ATM at all, no matter what they did, other than physically cutting it open like with a torch. They couldn't do it. Both of them were made by the same company. I can't think of the name of it. It starts with a Diapold.
Diapold?
Yeah, Diapold. Yeah, both of them were made by Diapold. One they couldn't break in for nothing, and the other one was ding-da-ding. So.
Interesting. Yeah, there were some interesting quotes from the Diapold CEO at the time of the 2004 election. The CEO was Walden Odell, who was a major fundraiser for Bush, and he had publicly stated prior to the election, the Diebold CEO, he was, quote, committed to helping Ohio deliver its electoral votes to the president next year. So, people in high places
Oops.
with
I didn't mean that.
Agenda who are, well, but it happened. And what happened? I mean, was there an uprising? Did anything overturn the vote? No, it didn't. So, we are now facing another presidential
Oh, look at
election.
this. I happen to be looking up, trying to find some quotes about Diapold, and I come into good old Stalin, the quote you just gave.
Yeah.
It's not who votes that counts, it's who counts the votes. There he is.
So, my suggestion here is that...
I don't mean to cut you off. Underneath this little poster, it says Diapold, because democracy is too important to leave to chance. Oh.
Oh, no. Oh, no. That's
I love a good
funny
smartass.
Yeah, really. Yeah. So my conclusions here are that, again, I'm becoming convinced that we have what I'm calling a mock-up nation. We have something that looks like a democracy. It kind of sounds like a democracy. It certainly pats itself on the back a lot for being a democracy, but I don't think it's a democracy anymore. So I think we should be aware, because we're getting engaged now in this election. People are kind of upset about the way the country is going, and they really, passions are flaring up. And I think we really do need to know when we're being played.
I'm looking at your article, and what is, I mean, I guess I could have looked it up, but, but what is oligarchy? Am I saying it right? I've never heard that phrase.
What?
I see, the oligarchy. Gotcha. My
Okay.
dyslexia eyes didn't get that the O was the as a graphic. I thought it was just a graphic, and it's oligarchy. Okay, I got you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh
So
well.
yeah. Big psyop. I called it a hunky big psyop. The election.
Oh,
So
I mean, do you have a minute Oh, you got to get to Cary. Let me. I shouldn't let you do
yeah.
that.
No. Go ahead. What
Well,
were you gonna say?
I was thinking about the election today, and I have to admit I am very shocked at how far. Uh, uh, okay, Trump is gone, and I don't know what to say. I can't. People are saying if it's Trump and Hillary, that Trump will win. I just here's my thing. If Trump wins, and this is what I said with Ron Paul, that the entire Ponzi scheme called the Federal Reserve. Hold on one second. Called the Federal Reserve is going to bust at some point. So I'm thinking that if they get an outsider in, then they'll just pull the pin. You know, it's got to bust someday. Is Trump an outsider? First off, that's an assumption, right? And then did they have to get somebody in like a cartoon in and the Republicans so that no matter how much you don't like Hillary, you don't like Trump more and you vote for Hillary? Is there do you have some kind of a theory on this? And is Bernie got a chance with the superdelegates, et cetera?
Oh, the superdelegates. I mean, you know, that's such a misnomer. Yeah, it's like how why don't we just call them the fraudulent delegates? You know that they're not the fraudulent delegates.
Yeah,
Okay?
they're basically the delegates saying, I know you voted for this one, but I'm going to vote for that one. You know, I'm going to swing my delegate.
The bought and paid for delegates. How about that? The bought and paid for delegates. It boggles the mind. Well, you know, I'll tell you something. Trump certainly presents as a very different breed of cat. Okay. However, I do want to stress the fact that for the last several elections, the individual who gained access to the Oval Office had himself positioned as the outsider, Barack Obama. Okay, I mean, man,
Yeah, that's true.
He couldn't. He was a big outsider, except he turned out not to be, didn't he?
Right.
Before that, actually, interestingly enough, during the Bush 2 election, George W. Bush was positioning himself as an outsider. I mean, how you can be an outsider when you grew up in the White House, I don't know, but basically, he had himself positioned that way. Before that, we had Bill Clinton, who, as you know, coming as a governor, was kind of running as a non-Washington insider. So it does appear that the electorate, the populace, is favoring these dark horses who they think are dark horses, who end up being, you know, meet the old boss, same as the new boss. So, don't know. I
think if Trump wins, I think that we're witnessing a kind of a modern version of how Hitler got elected, and it's got nothing to do with the camps and all that stuff, but that kind of make Germany great type stuff, outsider gonna, you know, and all that, and people were so knocked down and fed up that they voted for it, and well, you know, and then history could take from there. And I'm not saying that he's going to do that, but I mean, some of the quotes that of course, this is the left quoting him naturally, and the right doesn't quote these things, but you know, that the torture, you know, we're going to we got to torture, and I'll do more, you know, and so on. It's anyway. I didn't mean to take up your time with this, but we were talking.
No, well,
I
think it's very important to bring this up. I want to point attention to an article that was on Daily Kos recently, where there was a study done of Trump voters and versus those who were voting for, you know, for other candidates, and they were given some questions to answer that were essentially on a scale to measure authoritarian attitudes. It's the authoritarian mindset that got Hitler into power. And as it turned out, those voting for Donald Trump were off the scales in terms of authoritarian sorts of mindsets. So, this is what we're seeing. Big Brother, Sig Heil.
And I look at all this as like a bad cop, good cop, bad cop. Certain they have it's like a WWF. It's wrestling, all right? So some people like certain things, and you could put that president to get that agenda done, but then you bring this other president to get that agenda done, and you're working your way up, going like this, left, right, up the ladder.
I agree with you.
And you're still going up that ladder, though. That's the problem,
That's the problem, and we really need, I think the country needs a period of deep reflection and reassessment, because we are on a path that is, that is. Okay, we're invading other countries based on lies. We're taking away the rights of our own citizens. We're seizing the wealth of our own citizens. We're taking the children away from the parents. We're taking the parents away from the adult children in these guardianships. I mean, we're beginning to look like an Orwellian monster. And so we really do need a new direction. And I think that people feel this. I think that's one of the things that Barack Obama, appealed to, and now in a very different way, Trump is also appealing to. We need a change, but I think we need to be very careful what kind of change we're endorsing here, because not all change is good.
Yeah, I know. There's the old saying that I forgot the EU guy said this about we'd vote for the devil. We put the devil in there if he could get this problem solved, and that's kind of like I forgot the exact saying, but the point being, would you want you have to be careful that your solution is not worse than the problem.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, and while we're on the sort of the thread of how nasty the U.S. is getting. I do want to talk very briefly about a story that we've been following here on Feet to the Fire, having to do with the jailing of guardianship activist Cary Andrew Crittenden in Santa Clara County, California. And previously, basically to give a brief synopsis for those who aren't aware of Cary's situation, he had attempted to assist a disabled woman who was under a guardianship, and found that that he was running into a lot of corruption in county officials, and he began to get sort of loud about this. He set up websites and was making posters about certain public officials and so forth, and he's now found himself repeatedly jailed on First Amendment issues. This is all about what he's saying about people in Santa Clara County who hold positions in government. So he was arrested again. It's the third or fourth time he was arrested on Christmas Day. And I have been trying since January to get the police report to figure out exactly what he's been arrested on, because they don't seem to want to talk about this too much at the district attorney's office or at the public defender's office. So we found that the district attorney, an ADA named David Angel, had dedicated himself to violating the public records law in California and violating the clarification of that law provided by a court case called Kuzar, and simply just didn't want to give out the records. So I have been getting some mail from Cary. He sends it to we know, I'm in Mexico. It's a little hard to, unpredictable. The mail is unpredictable, to say the least. And so Cary's been sending letters to a contact in Southern California, and they've been scanned and emailed to me. And just this past week, I spoke with Cary Andrew Crittenden's dad, and I heard something very, very disturbing. As Cary had revealed in his letters, the powers that be had been trying to force him during this current incarceration into a psychiatric evaluation. And psychiatric evaluations for whistleblowers and activists are kind of dangerous things, because if a person is in custody and somebody just wants to get him off the street and shut him up, all they have to do is get a doctor to say that he's incompetent, and that whistleblower and activist will never even get a trial. He will just simply be remanded into a psychiatric facility and very likely drugged to the gills until
definitely
who knows when.
Yeah.
So Cary had refused to go to the shrink. And when I spoke with Cary's father this week, he told me that there was a court hearing last week and that the district attorney's office trotted in a lying, scum-sucking doctor to state that he had indeed seen Cary Andrew Crittenden and had evaluated him as incompetent.
So he didn't see him, but he said he did. And so, in other words,
this is
perjury.
what we're seeing. This is what we understand happened. He refused to go, so they just got the doctor to say, "Oh, I saw him and he's incompetent," when he didn't even see Cary Andrew Crittenden. So we had discussed earlier on your show how they were trying to force Cary into the psychiatric evaluation, and he had very wisely determined that he was not going to engage in this. So now we have them simply falsifying the record to state that he had an evaluation when he didn't. Now, according to Cary's father, there was some hoopla that happened in the courtroom when this doctor began to testify, and there was some, I'm not sure exactly the resolution of this, because there were statements made on the record that Cary had never had an evaluation. So we've got a situation now.
Oh, so it got on the record?
Well, this is what I understand. That what I understand from Cary's father is that the public pretender who is pretending to defend Cary Andrew Crittenden made some statements as to that, well, there must be some kind of mistake here. Okay, I have not seen the record yet. This is what I'm understanding secondhand from Cary's father.
Got to pass the information on to his father, what we heard a few weeks ago about always get the record and get an audio tape of it and make sure that there's no shenanigans going on. And if that's been said, it should be in it.
Very good point. Very good point. Yeah.
This is why we need Perry Mason. I mean, I love the show. It's my favorite show of all time. I've seen him a million times. I'll see him again. I actually got all the episodes on disc. Took a while, and we need someone like that. And that's the problem. There just isn't the Perry Mason. It's fiction, But gosh, we need someone to stand up in each genre. You need doctors to stand up against the drugging and so forth that's going on there. You need chemists to stand up against Monsanto. You need lawyers and the judges to stand up against. Because I don't want to sound like a pessimist here, but there's not a whole lot we can do. I know people like to say they can do things, and if they can, great. But it's like, what are you going to do how do you approach the court when the court censures those who approach the court? I mean, how do you got to have something come in from outside.
These are very good questions. Recently, I've been trying to solicit some legal help from some of these activist attorneys, because as you know, James, I have done some research which indicates that judges and some district attorneys are laundering bribes and payoffs through their home loans. And it seems to me, as a non-lawyer, that if you have evidence that there is this level of corruption going on in the judiciary, then basically we need to get this into court. We need to basically file the lawsuit, state that that these judges and these John Doe judges have been fixing cases because they've been paid off, and this is the mechanism they've been paid off in. But what I've been finding is that the activist lawyers are saying, oh, you'll never get anywhere with this case. We can't even file it. We can't even file. If we file it, we'll lose our law license. So you go round and round.
Well, this is what the press is for. I mean, they're the ones that are outside everything, government, military, legal, and all this stuff. They're supposed to be watchdogging. That's their job, right? They watchdog, something goes on, they put it up in the newspaper, we all find out about it, and then we do our rights or whatever. I know when I say that, the people haven't been doing a whole lot. We're all trying to survive, et cetera. But, I mean, this is the structure. And when I watch RT, since I got this streaming device thing, this Roku player, I've been watching RT, and I'm just flabbergasted at what the stories that are on there and all the evidence for it. It's nothing like that's getting on our news, U.S. or and I'm like, this is big news, and it's not even doing it. And if this is why if this is all somehow like a World War II, a Nuremberg, if there's a Nuremberg trial for all of this stuff, there was a whole lot of people going to get their butt kicked. So I don't know. Anyway, I'm sorry. I started to go off in a rant there, but
oh, I'm very sorry too. I'm just so sorry all this is going on, and people are acting, more and more aversive to doing what needs to be done to try to bring some resolution, some justice into the system. I'm very sorry too. But not that you're talking about it. That doesn't make me sorry.
No, well. But do you want to kind of wind up here with something, or?
Yeah. Well. Yeah. That's pretty much it for tonight.
Okay.
I appreciate again you're having me on, and I hope to have a new book out shortly. This is going to be poetry. The working title is Held Captive. And the held captive referred to in the title is going to be us, basically. So this is what I'm working on right now.
All right. Well,
thanks again.
I appreciate your reports and so forth. We need to get this out there. And again, of course, if you're watching this on YouTube, you know this, but I put these shows up on YouTube, and we have our show on audio. So they're free to give out. YouTube seems to be a good way to get this stuff out, and just do the links. I actually have a playlist dedicated to Janet Phelan's reports, so you can simply subscribe, I think, to the playlist, but at least the channel to get that. And you could take that playlist, copy it, and put it on your website or your post or whatever you want, and they automatically update. So the newest one is already on the top, but they're all there, and people can go through them. So you can check that out. And we look forward to your report with our knees shaking. Oh, no. What's next? But, again, we have to do this. So I appreciate the work that you're doing, especially under the duress that you are in.
Thank you, James. Talk to you soon. Have a good week.
You too.
God bless.